international break is officially over. The FA Cup break is officially over, which means one thing: the Premier League is back. And here today in this episode, in Game Week 30, we are going to give you an exact score prediction for every single game. So make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you join along on the way, giving your score predictions for each of the games. Let's kick things straight off. No messing about here. Wolves, West Ham are going to go in chronological order. Reese, we will come over to you first. What do you think the score will be in the Wolves-West Ham game?
Yep, this game is probably a bit of a dead rubber. Wolves look like they're safe. West Ham have been safe for a long time, just floating around where they are. I don't expect much to happen in this game, although, again, it's one of those, because no pressures on either side, it could live up to be quite a good one. I'm not going to say, I don't think there'll be much. I think Wolves 1, West Ham 0.
Jamie, what do you think?
Well, I think this game's just a slightly bit important I think if Wolves win, then the relegation battle is just completely done. I think it probably is done realistically, but like just looking on the sort of maths side of it and the numbers, getting that extra 3 points, I think will just cement it really. However, I've gone with a 1-1. I think, it's a game where both teams could do something, but I just don't see a lot happening. Both teams have been quite poor this year, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I went for the same, to be honest. I went 1-1. I think it's a weird game because 17th versus 16th at this stage of the season should be absolutely massive. But because of that points gap, it's kind of irrelevant. As you said, if Wolves win, I think they're kind of safe. So, yeah, should be a bigger game, isn't. But, yeah, I've gone for 1-0. Let's move swiftly on to the next up, Arsenal versus Fulham. Arsenal, as we know, kind of lingering in that second position, relatively comfortable, 4 points clear. And then you look at Fulham, who are arguably in the top 4, top 5 race. For me, I see this being quite a tight game. I don't think Arsenal lately have been that impressive. I think Fulham have been impressive. So, well, I'll say excluding the FA Cup result, of course, getting slapped at home 3-0 to Palace is not ideal. But I think Cup's a little bit different. So I think they'll bounce back. But I don't think it'll be enough. So I've gone for 2-1 Arsenal for this one. I think, Arsenal will get the 3 points. Jamie, come back to you. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Fulham have done pretty well this season. Obviously sitting, 8th in the table at the moment. 3 points off the top 5. So actually sort of in with the chance of Champions League. However, going away to Arsenal, it's one of the toughest fixtures. They've sort of slowed up a bit in recent weeks, and the sort of result in the FA Cup could be a big downer on them. So I'm going to go with an Arsenal comfortable 2-0 win. Saka might be back as well for Arsenal. If he starts that game, I think Arteta's in a complete idiot. Like edging back into it, don't give him 90 minutes. But yeah, it's a positive for Arsenal. So I think easy victory.
Another game that's a waste of time, 0-0.
0-0, there you go. Cool, let's move on to potentially a huge game, more so for one team than the other, but Nottingham Forest versus Man United. Again, Forest got the job done. By hook or by crook, they got the job done in the FA Cups. They'll be on a bit of a high, I think. And as for United, you look at the league table, 13th position. I can only see one result. This should be a close game, but I can only see one result here. And I think Forest will win. And I think they'll continue to cement third position. And if Reese's prediction's right, they'll close the gap on Arsenal. But I'm not sure of that. But I'm going to go 2-0 Forest. I don't think United are going to offer much here, to be honest. Reese, we'll come back to you.
I think this is probably one of the more intriguing games of this week. Forest, got the job done against Brighton. United, still can't make out what we're going to get from them, can we? Gibbs White is going to be assessed. If Woods as well, which might be a bit damaging to them. But of course, they've still got players that can do damage like Hudson-Odoi and Elanga. And of course, they've got that mean defence. But Man U have got some players coming back as well. And regardless of their injury problems, they've got a strong side. And Højlund might finally actually, get a bit of run going. I think Forest is the perfect game for him because I think Forest, they beat Man City, but I would argue that their record can be quite patchy against the teams they're competing around. I've gone 2-2.
Thing is, though, with that, like, I think Forest have been pretty solid at home. And I think if they can beat City at home, stop Arsenal from doing chances, surely they've got enough to get past this United side.
Yeah, but don't forget as well, there's that United, their good results come against the teams that they probably shouldn't beat either. You know, Liverpool away, Arsenal at home, City away. So they've got the ability here to turn up for this one. And it's an opportunity for them as well to get themselves into top 10 contention. And you know, while other teams might be a little bit mixed and a little bit in and out of form, they've got a chance to sneak in there, which I think is what they're going to eye up.
There is obviously what Reece was kind of saying there is it could be possible that the top 11 get some sort of European football, which is ridiculous in a way. But United winning would put them easily in contention for that. So there's still some incentive for them to push up the table, and also just for sort of pride as well. You'd hope as for United fans that they're going to play for more pride, not to end in the bottom half of the table. However, when it comes to the Forest game, you said, Forest beat City, but that game was basically a 0-0, really. Forest and City kind of, nothing really happened, and it was poor goalkeeping error to be beaten at the near post like that. And it was the same versus Arsenal. So I've actually gone with a 0-0. I think Forest are going to slightly lack Wood up top, and Gibbs White was obviously mentioned as well by Reece. I think that stops their attack. Defensively, they're solid, and I see the only way either team score is by either sort of like a absolute worldie or a dreadful mistake. And that dreadful mistake's more likely to come from Onana than it is from Sells, let's be honest. So I've gone with 0-0. I think they'll just cancel each other out, to be perfectly honest. It'll be the intriguing game. I actually think this will be the most boring game of the week games.
All right, there you go. Bit of disagreement on that one. Let's move on to the next game. Saints versus Palace. Southampton versus Palace. Southampton currently on 9 points. Do we see any hope of them getting some points on the board in this game? Reece, back to you. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, they can. I think Palace are good. I think they're a good side, but I think they're susceptible to be these kind of defeats. You know, before they got that great result against Fulham in the FA Cup, they did lose at home to Brentford and Everton. 2 games you'd actually fancy them to win. And that's, I think, the issue with Palace is they're capable of that. And I think they're probably going to put all their eggs in one basket at this moment in time, because they are 12th. They're in no danger of going down. Probably, again, that lack of consistency for them to threaten top 9, top 8. I think they're going to put everything into the FA Cup, which is probably a mistake. And I think Southampton could beat them here, and I'm going to put them to win 1-0. Wow.
Okay. So that would be a 33% increase in their points in one game if they were to get that win. There's a stat for you. Jamie, what do you think? Saints v Palace.
Well, just to add to that, if Reece is right, it means they go above the record of Derby's points of 11. So Southampton fans will definitely be hoping that Reece is right. I'm the opposite end. I just don't see anything from Southampton to get a result. I think Palace has started to sort of kick on a bit. I think they had a poor start to the season, and they've started to improve. I've gone with a 2-0 Palace away win. But yeah, it's doom and gloom for Southampton. I think they just need to hope they get over 11 points by the end of the season.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jamie. I can't see anything but a Palace win here. I've gone 2-1 Palace. I think Southampton are just terrible. Like, there's no dressing it up. They are just awful. They can't defend. And, you know, an informed Eze, Mateta coming back. There's just too much quality in Palace's side compared to Southampton. So I think they'll get the win. And to your guys' point around the points, you know, if Palace get the win here, it puts them on 42. And then suddenly they're looking upwards going, hold on, if we hit a bit of form here at the right time, maybe we could then sneak into those European spots. So I think it's actually a huge game for Palace, and I do think they'll get the 3 points. Let's move on. We'll come straight back to me straight away for Newcastle v Brentford. Again, two teams arguably. Brentford 3 points off Bournemouth. It's like one of those where, again, for Brentford, they're probably going, if we can put a bit of form for 3-4 games, could we then get in that European race as well? So big game for both of these teams. And then you look at Newcastle on 47 points, going, hold on, if we win, you could go above City and Chelsea depending on results. So massive game for them as well. So I think it's going to be tight, but I think Newcastle will still be on a bit of a high, and I think they'll have enough quality to get over the line. So I've gone 2-1 Newcastle.
Well, with Newcastle, obviously, if they win their game in hand, they do go actually into fourth place above City and Chelsea. So that's before this game. But the problem might be, you said they've been on a high. How much of a piss up was the parade? How sort of, prepared are they going to be for this game? So I've actually gone with them to get beat by Brentford in this game, because I think they're going to sort of be too much in a party mood and not enough sort of recovery and training time. It's weird to have a parade in the middle of the season. Obviously, for Newcastle fans, it's brilliant. They've had a great time, and so they should. But it may impact on the next game. And because that's sort of gone into the sort of midweek, I think it could actually impact them. That's why I think they're going to lose.
That is a good point, actually. I think the narrative will be exactly what you just said. If they do drop points here, why are they doing a parade mid-season? Why, straight after the international break? Is it a bad idea? So I think it will be really interesting, actually, if they don't pick up the 3 points, to see what everyone has to say about it. Reece, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mentioned, I sort of mentioned before as well that often, teams win a League Cup and tend to distract themselves a little bit. That's understandable in Newcastle circumstances. Even though they're currently 6th, if you would have offered them 10th in a League Cup, they would have ripped your hand off for it. And I do expect that mentality to still be there a little bit, and that's not a criticism, but of course got to be careful, because there's a golden opportunity here to take advantage of some teams that are a little bit all over the place. I think Brentford will beat them as well, actually. I think Brentford will beat them 2-1.
There you go. Newcastle fans, what do you think of that? Comment below. Let's move on. Man City versus Leicester. I can't make a case here for Leicester. Again, similar to Southampton, although they've got more points. 5 out of 5 of the last losses. They've been terrible away from home. Just can't make a case. So I've gone 3-1 City. I do think they might nick a goal on the counter, because we know City have been a bit vulnerable. Probably a Jamie Vardy counter attack goal. But yeah, 3-1 for me.
I've gone the exact same 3-1. We can't keep a clean sheet for the life of us. So I just expect them to score at some point. They could even probably score first. Haaland probably going to be out for this game. He left on crutches against Bournemouth from the FA Cup, but I think possibly the plan would have been to play Mamouche anyway. So it's not like we don't have a striker at all. So yeah, so 3-1. I think it'd be a comfortable victory.
Yeah, I fully expect City to kick themselves into gear now as they look to secure a top 4 place, or as in this case, a top 5 with the European places the way they're going. I think Leicester have been dreadful most of the season, and it doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon. I think 3-0 Man City. I think it's going to be a matter of game management, even if they go 3-0 up in 20 minutes, to just shut up shop and not worry about it. But Leicester have a chance, like I said, on the counter, but you got to fear from the performances they're putting in are very, very poor against some very, very poor sides or out of form sides.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Let's move on. Potentially huge game for both these teams. Brighton versus Aston Villa. In terms of the points, just 2 points separates these, so it feels like a win for either side could be massively significant in the European race. I was a bit torn on this, so I've gone for a draw. but I do think there will be goals. So I've gone Brighton 2, Villa 2, just based on I think it's going to be a close game. Can't really call it, but I do think there'll be goals. So yeah, 2-2. Jamie, what do you think of this one?
I agree that this is a sort of a massive game for both teams for trying to get into the Champions League spots. With obviously Brighton, what are they, one point off the top 5 at the moment, so it is really big for them. However, I was quite disappointed at the performance they had in the FA Cup, and for them, the FA Cup should be a bigger occasion for them. I know Forest are sort of a good side, and it was penalties in the end, but I wasn't too impressed with Brighton throughout the game. I think they were better actually in extra time. I've gone with them to get beat 2-1 by Villa. I think Villa are a better side overall, but Brighton have been in great form in the league. Yeah, I've gone with 2-1 Villa. I be honest, it could be any result this, but I think I was so disappointed with them against Forest. I think they're going to lose.
Yeah, this is quite a good one, actually. Villa have got a decent record against Brighton. Villa can overtake Brighton, which is the important thing if they get a result. But I do expect Brighton to bounce back from that disappointing FA Cup game. I don't see signs of Villa slowing just yet. I think they're going to go for high as they can and the FA Cup. I think when it comes to the last 4-3 games, you're going to see what decision they're going to make on that. I'm going to go 1-1. I think both teams, Villa are going to look probably to not get many injuries with their running. And I think Brighton will look to want to get themselves back and, and keep themselves in that party. So I'm going to go 1-1.
Cool. Let's move on to Bournemouth versus Ipswich. Same story for Ipswich as the other teams. Doesn't look like they've got much of a hope. I think they've been impressive in spells, but clearly it's not been enough to get points on the board. As for Bournemouth, they're in 10th position at the minute, which sounds grim. But when you consider that if they get 3 points, they could then go level with Newcastle in theory in 6th, it becomes another massive game for Bournemouth. So they were really, really poor in the second half against City, and I think that game was there for the taking. So I think we need to see a bounce back from Bournemouth. I think if there's any game to do it, it is the Ipswich game. So I went for 2-0 for this one. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so Bournemouth are doing exactly what I thought would happen to them. I think everyone has this habit of bigging up these nice, tidy teams. Pochettino's Southampton, for example. Borussia Dortmund about 10 years ago, an example. Wenger's Arsenal about 10 years ago. These nice little tidy teams where they get a lot of hipster followers that like them, and they eventually start to crumble when it matters. Everyone said how good their performance was against Forest, but the reality is that Forest have then got the results where it matters and Bournemouth have not, and they've been quite poor, and they were poor against Man City as well, which says it all about maybe they're just not quite there yet. And it would make me ask questions if that manager's ready for the next step yet. And I think they would look at this game against Ipswich and be licking their lips, going, "This is a great chance to get back to form." But I think Ipswich will look at this game and lick their lips and go, "This is a chance to close the gap." Especially if Wolves don't get a result the day before, they're going to look at this and go, they're ready to put some pressure on. I see this being very similar to Bournemouth-Luton last year. Luton going into a lead and then Bournemouth rallying back. I think Bournemouth are going to win this 3-2.
Cool,
Just
the drama.
Yeah, I think Bournemouth have slightly dipped in their form. Really, they've been like very, very good in certain parts, and I praised them very highly when they beat City at home this season, thinking they outplayed us completely. They have dipped off though slightly, and you saw for that second half, well, they created nothing. It was actually a 0 XG sort of performance in that second half, which isn't good enough for when an FA Cup, a trip to Wembley would mean a lot to them. However, I think if they were playing someone in around the sort of going for the European spots, I'd be concerned for them. But because they're playing Ipswich, I think they're going to be perfectly fine. I'm sort of tossed between a 2-1 and a 2-0. I just looked at their sort of goals conceded, and it's better than City, it's better than Chelsea, it's better than Newcastle, all by sort of one-ish, sort of 1 or 2 goals. But that makes me push towards the 2-0 I'm going to go with. In the end, I don't think Ipswich will score.
Cool. All right, let's move on. We've got 2 games to get through and 2 massive, massive local derbies. We'll start with Liverpool-Everton. Merseyside Derby. We obviously saw this game kick off massively in the reverse fixture. Our last one at Goodison Park. The drama, the red cards, the late equaliser. Do we think there's going to be a repeat of this? Do we think there's a chance that Everton can get a draw? Or are we giving them no hope at all?
I mean, I think David Moyes has a pretty poor record at Anfield, doesn't he? I think he's come in and done the job he needed to guide Everton away from the relegation zone, which he has. He has a great opportunity to move further up the table because they could play their cards right, end up getting a top 10 finish. But I look at their performance when they played Liverpool in February. Obviously, the last home game at Goodison. I think Liverpool haven't been far from convincing themselves. But Liverpool are going to look at this game and go, you know what? We're going to teach you a lesson for celebrating your last minute equaliser against us. And this is the difference with Liverpool, is they're not playing particularly great, but they're still getting results. So I expect Liverpool to get the result here. 1-0 Liverpool.
Look, when you look at Everton's record at Anfield, it's shocking. And despite, I think, Liverpool, dropping out from, the possible quadruple that very few Liverpool fans were just talking about and pundits were mentioning, to going into sort of now being only one trophy they can win, I still don't have any doubts about them beating this Everton side. It's just a game that they will get 3 points from. When you go to Goodison, it's a different atmosphere for them, and also being the last one, there's just that added bit about them that Everton could have. You got to remember, it took them a 99th minute equaliser just for Everton to stay in it. I think at home, Liverpool win comfortably. Once again, I actually think Liverpool keep a clean sheet, and I think it'd be like a 3-0 win. It'd be something like a Salah hat-trick or something like that.
Yeah, I think this is the dream game, I think, for Liverpool, because they've kind of lost what will feel like 2 cup finals, exiting to PSG as the favourites in the Champions League, then losing the cup final to a team who's not won a trophy in 70 years. They will be desperate to get back on this pitch and basically prove a point and go out there and, put on a show. So Everton, I think, are the perfect team for that, because it's a rivalry, because it gives them that little bit of a, extra 20%. I think they'll bounce back. I think this, depending on the Arsenal game, because the Arsenal game's the day before, I think this could feel like, if you're right, Reece, and Arsenal do drop points, this will feel like Liverpool basically confirming the league. So I think this will be a cup final in itself if Arsenal drop points. I've gone for a 2-0 win. I think it'll be good. It'll be feisty, but I can't see Everton getting a result.
I mean, look, they don't have to worry about Arsenal. Look, Liverpool can lose the rest of their games, and Arsenal will still find a way to lose. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, but it will feel like if Arsenal drop points,
they are just cruising to that title because Arsenal have handed it to another team once again. Don't worry about that. They'll do you a favour. If you're ever top of the table, don't worry about it. Arsenal will hand it to you like they have done. They could lose this game against Everton, and it does not matter in the slightest. It really doesn't.
All right, fair enough. Let's move on to the final game, the big London derby, Chelsea versus Spurs. In my opinion, the best derby in terms of actual entertainment currently in the Premier League. And let's hope we get more of the same. I think this is must win. I think you look at Spurs, Spurs are in 14th place. I think basically if we beat them here, their season's done. I think this is a bit of a last opportunity for Spurs to go on a bit of a rally. If they were to get a result against us, nick a draw, nick a win, they could go level with United, and then suddenly they might start believing again. But Spurs have just been poor. That's the bottom line. And I know we've not been great in the last few games, but we have to put on a display here. Jackson's probably going to be back in the team, thank God. Palmer's had a nice little break. I know he had a knock and stuff. I think he'll hopefully fit. Hopefully he's fit and will, be back to his best. And I think as long as those two are back in the team and firing, I think we'll have enough to get the 3 points. So I'm going to go 2-1 Chelsea.
Are you sure you don't want to play your under 21s, Jordan? I've heard they're better than the current 11. Look, Jackson coming back is good for you. Is he fit enough to start? Could be the sort of question. Yeah. You don't want to rush him back. I know you're only well, you've got the Conference League as well, so it's not just that. Spurs, I think their season in terms of Premier League is over. They're putting all their eggs in the Europa League basket. And I don't think that's out of choice. I think that's just the reality of the situation of where they found themselves this season. So it is that I think their record at Stamford Bridge is terrible as well. So it sort of doesn't really give up big hope for Spurs fans coming into this game. I think it could be entertaining. I really don't know what the score is going to be on this. I've written down 4-2, and I just don't know. It generally could be any score, but I just believe Chelsea will win. Whether it's comfortable or not is a different matter, but I think in the end Chelsea will win this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think when Maresca was under pressure at Leicester to get them over the line, he got them over the line, and I think this is an example of where he can show that. I think it's safe to say that no Tottenham fan seems to be confident going into this game, and I think it goes to show that they've written off their season, unless, of course, with the Europa League, which is understandable because they're not going to go down, and if they're fighting with everyone else to go higher, might be best to just go for that. Again, there's dangers of doing that. But I think because they're going there not under any pressure, I think they are going to give you a game. You've got a full strength back line, which is probably not the good thing that Spurs want to hear. And I think you can afford to rest Palmer in this game. I think you're going to win 2-1. Just because I think there's that end-to-end element to it where Spurs can hit you quite ruthlessly. But I don't see you losing this one now, with the fact that, like I said, I think Spurs have got other things to be focusing on, and I understand it.
Yeah, I think as well we need these points now, because you look, we've discussed it before. Our run-in is pretty grim, that last 4 or 5 games. So if we want European football, we want Champions League, we need these 3 points. Simple as that, really. But that is all we have time for. There we have our predictions for every single game in Game Week 30. As always, hit us up below in the comments with your predictions. Share it with your friends and make sure you're subscribed. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.